My name is Taylor Bell. Welcome back to Chiefs Studios. Let's hit that intro.
Yeah. Woo.
I just need my
Yeah.
space right now.
Fresh off the G5 jet, I'm on my way to a brand new kit.
So it's hard to believe that the halfway point is upon us, right? So the Chiefs are heading into a bye week as the NFL hits the midway point of the 2023 season. It's hard to believe that 50% is done. Now, teams have played enough games to see where they stand, and you can basically see their positives and each team's negatives and possibly where they need improvement. Now, this is the Chiefs Studios team evaluation episode, evaluated by me, your host, Taylor Bell. This is basically like a report card, so to speak. You remember when you were a kid and what was it, every 6 weeks you get a report card? Sometimes you'd go home and pretend like you didn't get anything at school and until your parents ask for it. Yeah, that was me. Anyways, this is basically what it's like. There's some positives, but definitely one or two negatives that stand out. But I'm glad y'all could join us here as we evaluate the 2023 Kansas City Chiefs thus far into the 2023 season, as mentioned. Now they got a bye week. So this is where I do a bunch of the evaluation of the team, what can be improved upon, and what looks good so far. So let's get into it. Kicker. I'm giving the kicker an A plus. Yes. Now look, after we're done here, I'm gonna do a screen share and basically show you and or provide evidence that I used to get to this conclusion of these grades, and we'll review some stuff. It won't be too boring, and we'll just hit a few topics. Nothing, not going to take this too long, but definitely wanted to give my input on the different position groups and players so far. So yes, kicker Harrison Butker. A plus. He's made every single field goal and extra point this far in the 2023 season. Now the defense, I'm giving an A. So the kicker gets an A plus. Could not have done any better throughout the first half of the year. Defense, I'm giving an A, which I think is the first time I've honestly graded them at an A in years. This past Sunday provided proof that Mahomes and Travis Kelce don't need to have their greatest games for the Chiefs to have a chance to win. The defense will give up some rushing yards and has snagged just 5 interceptions, but those are just about the only bad things you can say about this defense. Now, having a better defense than any other Mahomes led team thus far, the defense ranks third best in defensive efficiency per ESPN per drive, and they are third in points given up. The defense backs and the backfield are playing very well and give up nearly no yards after catch. With a solid defensive line and linebacking core, this defense knows how to win. The defense looks really, really strong, and I believe the defense will carry this Chiefs team not only into the second half of the season, but into the playoffs. Offense has been shaky, and we will definitely get into it here shortly. But I knew the defense was going to be improved this year because they looked solid last year, but they've just taken that next step. They've literally gone to a next level. Some improvements I would like to see, however, is their number one draft pick, Felix, from K-State. He's basically been non-existent, but it's mostly in Chris Jones' statistics haven't really wowed anybody like they have in years past. But here's the deal. Instead of relying on one or two all pros in your defensive unit, it's basically been a collective unit. It's like a piece of the puzzle, right? You add instead of having one or two, like as I mentioned, standout players, elite defensive players. It's more of so a fine-tuned engine. It's like a Ferrari V10, just finely tuned Every little piece is playing their part into a very, very strong defensive unit. The defensive line has played well. Linebackers have been playing well. Tons of tackles. And the defensive backs, safeties have been outstanding. Just you can really, really, really rely on this defense. I know the first few weeks where we were all kind of wowed by the defense and wondered how long the good defensive play was going to continue. And they've continued all the way to the midway point. So I definitely look forward to seeing this, how good this defense can get. Now, like I said, they're third in efficiency, which takes in a number of factors and calculates it into one solution or end goal. Now, obviously, number one is the best defense, and so on. So, I think they factor in total yards, points, completion percentage, yards per rush, all sorts of factors that get thrown into this equation. So they rank third in the NFL, which again is ironic because Mahomes has never had this good of a defense. But that brings up a point that I want to say is it's ironic because if the offense is obviously struggling, right, and if the offense looked anywhere close to where it has in the last maybe 2 to 3 years, this would be like, I'm joking, but like a undefeated season. Like they would basically be impossible to beat with Mahomes throwing the ball all over the field, breaking all sorts of records offensively, and then you have the third best defense in the NFL. Game over. Super Bowl, game over. But we are not there yet. So let's get into the offense as I bring that up because it's definitely had its share of struggles. Now, with the offense, I'm going to give them a C. That's right, a C grade. Here's where we get into the not so good parts of a 7-2 team. The reality is that the iteration of the Chiefs isn't as explosive offensively as past years, as I just mentioned. Outside of tight end Travis Kelce, the team really doesn't have any pass catchers who frighten the opponents, right? The Chiefs' offense only scored 14 points against the Dolphins last week and was shut out in the second half offensively this past week. The run game this year has suffered from a pass-heavy offense with lack of depth. They've had to basically rely on one running back all year. Now, Pacheco has looked good at times, but the run game and the run play calling is pretty inconsistent. And the run blocking has been good, but it leaves room for improvement. Now, rookie Rashee Rice leads the way with 32 receptions for 378 yards and 4 touchdowns. But that's a meager return, though, through 9 games. He's outside of the league-wide top 50 wide receivers in all metrics, which is far from ideal for a team's leading receiver. Now, I did not take into account Kelce as a wide receiver because technically he's a tight end. However, this offense does rely on Kelce and basically on 99% of pass plays. He's the first option if it's not a pass play directed for Rashee Rice or Tony or any other player. But I'm talking wide receivers. It has been very underwhelming this year. But now, when you get down the list from your number one statistic wide receiver, which is Rashee Rice, the numbers only get worse. Kadarius Toney only has 20 catches all season, which puts him ahead of Sky Moore, had 16, Justin Watson, 14 catches, Valdez-Scantling, another 14 catches, and reacquired Ricard Holman with 6 catches in 3 Chiefs games. None of those wide receivers have more than 276 yards the whole entire first half of the season, and the entire receiving core has only 7 touchdowns, which is shocking compared to years past. Now, in fairness, Rice has shown potential through the first half of the of his rookie season, and look, it's reasonable to think he'll continue to improve. But as things stand, the Chiefs gamble that a young player could hold down the receivers room and step up offensively hasn't paid off thus far. And halfway through the season, Mahomes is seeing projected career lows all across the board statistically. Mahomes currently has a 7-to-5 touchdown ratio. So he's thrown 7 TDs and got 5 interceptions on the first half of the year to his wide receivers, right? With a completion percentage of 64%. Now, both of those are career lows, and the 8% ball drop percentage is not only a career low for his wideouts, but it's also the worst in the NFL this season. Yes, they have the most, and I think week 1 probably made that number jump through the roof. I believe they had 9 or 10 drop balls in that one game. Now, this past game versus the Dolphins, the Chiefs only completed 3 passes over 10 yards. Travis Kelce is the de facto number 1 wide receiver, as we mentioned earlier, and now teams have basically double teamed him to make it that more difficult to complete a pass. And that's really where the problem stems from. With an average at best offensive collective unit, and Kelce seeing 2 defenders on him on almost every play, it's on the wide receivers to run crisp routes, right? To get separation and to get in sync, so Mahomes has time to find an open teammate. Now, the subpar wideout talent and performance is not getting separation on the opposing defensive players. And we will have to see as we roll into the second half if they can improve upon that. Now, we've mentioned in previous videos that it was a big gamble for the Chiefs front office to basically roll a team out there with a wide receiving core with this much inexperience. It's basically a group of number 2, and that's even pushing it. Basically, number 3 wide receivers, meaning if you take each wide receiver off of the Chiefs and put them on another team, where would they line up in those wide receivers? Your number 1 wide receiver is the best on the team. Typically is an all-pro or very, very high athletic wide receiver, right? So the Chiefs basically have not even a number 2, second best. They have basically everybody's third best wide receivers on the team. And it was a huge gamble for the front office to run this offseason. So far, it's not paid off. And we will have to see if they can step up their performance in the second half of the year. Now, that gets into my next grading, where they can help the wide receivers improve and where the offense can improve. And that gets into the coaching. I'm going to give the coaches a B as in Bell. Now, unless these wide receivers get a performance boost overnight, the only real solution to this problem falls on coaching, right? Head coach Andy Reid and offensive coordinator Matt Nagy must coach this offense up. They got to coach their butts off, right? It's their responsibility to get this team back on track offensively, and it really relies on the offensive coaching staff, the quarterbacks coach, the wide receivers coach, the offensive line coach, obviously Andy Reid, Matt Nagy. These guys in this off week are going to have to put some sort of game plan together. Got to get this team back on track offensively. Now, since the wideouts are limited physically, the coaches are going to have to come up with clever schemes, routes, especially designed plays to get these wide receivers open and to get them the ball, right? The deep ball pass game is almost non-existent. It's basically vanished the huge explosive plays that we are all used to seeing over the last few years is gone. It apparently left with Tyreek Hill to Miami, because check this stat out that I looked up. I almost had to do a double take, right? So the Chiefs only have two pass completions where the ball has traveled more than 20 yards in the air. That is correct. Two pass plays that have two pass completions where the ball has traveled 20 yards in the air in the last year and a half. Now, that's not I know you're thinking, well, that can't be right, because I've seen, a 60 or 40-yard pass play score for a touchdown. I'm not talking about you throw the ball 10 yards and then the wide receiver breaks a tackle and runs off for a touchdown. I'm talking about bombs. I'm talking about the big plays where the ball travels down the field in the air has basically been non-existent. And that's an issue. The lack of explosive plays in this offense. Now, recently the trade deadline has come and gone with no new talent added to this offense. So the coaches are going to have to get busy this bye week scheming new plays and concepts and try to get these guys the ball 5 to 10 yards at a time. A quick strike passing game does not suit the missile launching arm of Mahomes, but it can be effective, right? I mean, just look at Tom Brady and the Patriots. They perfected the short passing game towards the end of his career in New England. The Pats could not stretch the field vertically, but they relied on a decent or average run game and a quick strike passing game. Now, Brady's receiving core in New England was essentially handpicked by Brady, right? But Mahomes has had more than enough talent to solidify all the pass game requirements of a quick strike offense. So it will be interesting to see what they look like. The Chiefs have a huge game. Not this weekend, obviously, as the bye week, but a week from now, they will be getting ready for the Philadelphia Eagles. It will be a Super Bowl rematch. And as we mentioned last week, the game against Miami was a good test. I want to see how the Chiefs look against the NFL's best, right? I want to see how they look, how they measure up, what they look like in pressure moments, because as much as we enjoy the regular season and love these football Sundays and to cheer your team on, I'm worried about how they're going to look in the playoffs. And when you get to the playoffs, you face very good teams, whether it be an offensive team, a defensive team, what have you. I want to see how they do against the league's best, so we can kind of tell or booster our confidence in this team going into the playoffs. So games against Miami, who had the second best record in the AFC at the time, games against Philadelphia, like that's coming up, is important, because you're going to see look at the Ravens. They had a wonderful output of offense this last week, and they shot way up on the everybody's top 10 or top 3 or top 5 best teams in the league, power rankings, what have you. The Ravens shot up to I think 1 or 2, and definitely into the top 3 after this last week, because it sure looked like they had everything put together. But I say that because you're possibly going to see the Ravens in the playoffs. I want to see how this team looks. I want the offensive coaches to scheme these wide receivers up. I think the first half proved that the wide receiving core cannot get separation on the defenders. Plus, a lot of these guys are, rookies, or 1 year of experience, 2 years of experience, and it's just not enough time to get in sync with the quarterback. So I think we're going to have to basically utilize and not necessarily form a new offense, but focus on the quick passing game, little slants, little out routes, little 5-10 yard strikes. Mix that up with the run game and then some play action, maybe get some bootlegs going. But something has to be done, because I do not believe we're advancing far into the playoffs with the way it's currently going, which is kind of shocking because when you look at the record, right, and then you look at the season statistics so far, you would until you look at the wide receiver statistics, some of the offensive it can be deceiving because some of their offensive statistics are deceiving, right? It's kind of like, that on paper they look like a good team and they have a 7-2 record, yet they have a major flaw that if they don't fix here soon will end up biting them in the ass when it comes to the playoffs. Now, getting a phenomenal regular season record definitely helps out this year. In years past, I would say it's not that big of a deal because I truly believe that the Chiefs could beat any team anywhere at any moment. But this year is going to be extra important to get that home field advantage throughout the playoffs, because you're gonna need that help. It helps a little bit, but for this team, it definitely will. Now, let's get into the shortly these statistics here. I have some interesting stuff pulled up. Let me get into it. Won't bore you too much. We're not going to go over everything in detail, but I just wanted to show you, right? So here we got the Chiefs. They are first in the AFC West at 7-2. And look, here's some of the stuff that I said kind of surprising because with the passing yards, they are fourth in the NFL. Rushing yards, they are 19th best in the NFL. And then total yards per game, they're sixth in the NFL. So the the team leaders here, you do have Mahomes, obviously. Pacheco, when we get back to that's another part that needs improvement, but you're midway through the season. I don't know how much improvement you can do. It's basically been Pacheco and that's it, because Mahomes is your second leading rusher. That's a problem. Now, here's where a big plus or minus will be, or excuse me, not a plus or minus. A key factor will be we got to hope and pray that Pacheco does not get injured, because it's apparent just by looking at the statistics. Clyde Edwards-Helaire did not make the trip to Germany this past week because he was sick, right? Now, they do have McKinnon, who has shown, signs of life last season, and it really hasn't seen much playing time this year. But if Pacheco gets hurt, that's going to be a major flaw, liability in the offensive production. Now, unless Edwards-Helaire or McKinnon, obviously they're going to have to give somebody the starting job, unless they can really step up in that number one running back role. We'll have to wait and see. Let's hope and pray that does not become the case. But the large majority of the rushing has come from Pacheco. Obviously, receiving yards, you have your tight end with 597 yards leading the team. And then it just basically falls off a cliff after that. And defensively, you have some, it could be deceiving. They don't have a ton of interceptions, right? They don't have a ton of sacks, but look, they're spread out. See the different players that have, you got one player at 6, you got one at 5.5, another at 5.5, another at 3.5, and then the interceptions are spread out as well. Tackles look pretty good. Again, your linebacker, Tranquil, leads the team at the halfway point with 55 tackles. And then you have your backfield high tackle count, right? You got McDuffie, you got Justin Reed, and L'Jarius Sneed. So the backfield's coming up huge. It's a major bonus for this team is the backfield. So points scored. So we got a bunch of, blah, blah, blah stats. Let me go to this other one. Let's see here. Let me remove this. And we will go to this screen right here. This is a little better instead of not player specific, but team specific, right? So I'm not going to go down every single one. But as you can tell, you have the Chiefs here so far to the midway point of the year, and then you have the opponents on the right side. And this is where I said it can look misleading, because when you look at the team statistics versus the opponent statistics, the Chiefs look like a far superior team, right? But this does not show the player statistics, and the wide receiving core can kind of hide their stats underneath the team stats. So, but that's why they're 7-2. Look, they are a good team. They just have a major flaw that they will try to improve upon going into the second half of the year. Now, let's see. One of these was sticking out to me. Yes, the turnover ratio. That's a big one. You don't want to turn the ball over, right? Touchdowns, obviously 21 to your opponent 16. Field goals, as we gave the Chiefs kicker an A plus, 18 out of 18, and also has scored on every extra point. Now look at this one. Sacks. So the Chiefs are not a big sack team. They do have some. They are spread out. But on the year, the Chiefs only have 12. The opponents have 31. So that's where I could have broken down the grading system by position, each position on the team, but that video would have been a lot longer. I'm trying to make, cap these at 30 minutes at the most. So I guess right off the top of my head, without doing the research, I would give the offensive line maybe like a B minus, because look, the Chiefs have 12 sacks on the year. Their defense the Chiefs have 12 sacks, but the opponents have 31 sacks on the year, which is not really, it's a pretty high number for a halfway point. So offensive line, I would say probably gets a C plus right off the top of my head, just off that stat alone. But let's see, anything else that jumps out? Not really. Let's see, first downs. I mean, they all look relatively like it looks like a 7-2 team. So that'll basically do it for the grading system at the midway point through their bye week. I'm gonna also break down probably some more, and I will do some more position group videos, and I actually might look into that offensive line and versus the Chiefs defensive line and see where they can improve. And I may pull some film from all 22 and put it up here for y'all to watch and prove my points. But let me get out of here. I do appreciate it. I really, really appreciate the time, the viewership. Thank you very much. I know everybody has, everything going on in their personal lives and the little free time that you do have. I appreciate you joining the Chiefs Studios YouTube channel. Fred Davis will have a show tonight, I believe, a little later. Please stay tuned for that. We'll send updates out for that. But I'll try to be back tomorrow with another video. I'll break down some more film, and maybe we'll do a deep dive in the offensive line, or maybe find something exciting, because I know the O line and D line is not that exciting, but it does intrigue me because I want to see why those numbers are so lopsided. So thank you very much. I won't ramble on. I do appreciate the time. Chief Studios YouTube channel, and we will see you next time. Peace out.